I do want to say this to you, that I have shared this message before, but it's been a good while. How many of you have heard the teaching that we do on boundaries? Raise your hand. Okay, that's what I expected. There's a whole bunch of you, a new crop. Now, I want you to know a couple things. First of all, I am much better at extemporaneous speaking, which means I hear God, I get up and say it, than I do planning it out and writing it down. I did discover through this that all the prophetic words I've gotten about writing a book, I figured out what the book is. And so you need to pray for yourself and for me that I can wisely discern which part is for tonight. Because we have a whole lot to get people caught up on, so I can get to the part that I really wanted to share tonight. If God doesn't take us that far, is it okay if I come back and just do the next part later on? I'd rather get what we need and what he's doing so that we can catch on to what it is he's trying to share with us. Without this first part of information and everybody synced on that, you're going to be lost in the last part, okay? So I want to share that with you. Over the last few weeks, we have been talking through the month of August, we've been talking about honor. Anybody heard any of the sermons on honor? Periscope online here. Well, that just tells me who all's been gone. Glad you're back, right? Okay, so anyway, in those times, we learn that we cannot walk consistently in spiritual fruit. We cannot walk consistently. That's a big word. Mark that word down, consistently. God, consistency and consistently are big words that God's releasing right now. If you're missing something in your life you keep tripping over, look at that word consistency. Ask God to show you how it applies. But he just dropped it in right there. We can't walk faithfully or even fruitfully in anything that we do, even out on the streets, if it's not bathed and birthed in honor. Okay? It's true. If we don't have that, we're just going out and handing out food like some social organization that likes people. Okay? We also learn that we can't value, it's something that we don't value, we can't honor. Okay? If we do not value something, you could be doing all kinds of things, but you're not honoring them. Okay? We have to value something in order to truly honor it. Not only that, but we probably aren't going to get around to honoring it if we don't value. So look around in your life as we're going through this tonight. If you've already heard this, it's going to be a time for an upgrade. It's going to be time for you to kind of do a tune-up and see how am I doing in this? What have I stayed with? What have I let go of? But I want you to pay attention to your motivations that you're doing in things. We are focusing through the month of August on honor. That honor births all kinds of things. Fred shared with us repeatedly, and I don't know if you let it go like water off a duck's back or what, but I'm telling you that honor is what love looks like. Say that with me. Honor is what love looks like. How are you doing honoring the person next to you? If you're not, you're missing out on love. Okay? Another way of looking at it is that honor is love's fruit. Okay? If we are truly loving, we will, first of all, when honor is new to us, like any new concept, we kind of practice it, we put it into action. We have to, even like when I was in school, we still had chalkboards, and you had those little things across the top that had each letter out, and you would look up there to write, how do I form that? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because we still had penmanship. And I didn't want to stay in for recess to have to do that anymore. But back and forth. So when we're first learning honor, we are any other spiritual attribute that we're wanting to have manifest in our life, we are having to be very consciously mindful. There will come a time, and usually it's 21 days of practice, a habit is formed, and it begins to flip from here to the subconscious mind. And it begins to be something you live out of. You become that. You're not having to, like the little train, I think I can. You just become it, and it becomes who you are. I am thankful to say that through the years, I have watched Hope become a people of honor. It's why we stand up. I can tell you from being in the White House, when President, okay, I won't say who because you might turn me off after that, but nevertheless, there was a certain president that when he walked in, nobody had to say stand. They did, but everybody was already on their feet already. There is something built in us that we're either going to go low and bow or we're going to stand up in honor. One of those two things, all right? So we value and then we honor. We also know that we don't honor people because they do honorable things. We can get to that, and we want to honor that. But the truth of it is, we were all created in God's image. So the fullness of Christ already was breathed into us. We are honoring Him, His likeness, His becoming in them, while we're catching up with the behaviors. Okay? We are honoring that. I hear people all the time say, I can't honor that person. They hurt me. My goodness, that's even more reason to honor them. You receive what you give away. Okay? So it's even more reason to honor people. We also know that God honored us even though we didn't deserve it. Here's a scripture, if they'll put it up, Romans 5:8. It's from the NIV. Do we have that one? But God demonstrates, no, read it with me. How about that? Why don't we just do this? Stand up and honor the word while we read this, okay? But God demonstrates His own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Have a seat. That does not mean when you were telling some little white lie, which really that's a misnomer, but it doesn't mean when you were just doing some little something. It means, while you probably don't want to think of it, but the deepest, darkest, dirtiest, worst form of betrayal that you ever performed in your life, He loved you. If you were in your deepest, darkest, dirtiest cell somewhere, doing drugs, selling drugs, raping somebody, yes, I mean that. That's just somebody who hasn't discovered who they are yet, okay? It doesn't matter what you've done, that it says while you were in that place, that's what it means. He died for you. Who am I to not give what I've been given? What can anybody ever do to me that's worse than what I've done to Him? Okay? So we know that He honors even when we're not honorable yet. It's a good model. He's the best theology. Let's do it, okay? So I want to point out 2 books for you as we're going through here real quickly. I'm not going to refer to those, but some of you are going to want to do some other work and study on this. 2 books that really changed Fred's and my ministry, our marriage, our parenting, our lives. I mean, seriously. The number 1 was John Bevere's book, Undercover. Now, I got to tell you something. You're going to love one chapter, hate the next. Love a chapter, throw it down the next. Love another chapter and go, who in the world does this guy think he is? Read it all the way to the end, and you will see the balance of honor. Honor comes with reward to those who honor. It comes that way. It's a door that is opened through honor. You receive honor by honoring. Second book is Danny Silk's book. It used to be called Culture of Honor. It's now called The Practice of Honor, putting into daily life the culture of honor. Those 2 books are so hugely practical, hugely practical. So it starts with your eyes coming open like, oh, I guess I was dishonoring in that. I didn't know that's what honor looked like. And it starts raising your awareness of what honor is. And then you have a choice of what you're going to take part in. Again, that statement that honor is what love looks like. We are called to be lovers. If there's one thing when I die that I want to be said of me, that she loved well. Didn't say perfectly, but that she loved well. Okay? There are places that honor really did take it up for me in being able to love better. What I tried to do is write down things. This is the topic. This one right here. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a relationship with God, or we're talking about a relationship with a spouse, or we're talking about something at work. Somehow, as I spend all my days and almost a lot of my nights sitting with people talking, it comes back to this issue. It does. This one issue, if we can get worked out at least to a higher level, will be better and have better fruit in our life. Okay? This one thing drains the life out of us, separates relationships. I believe this one thing is why our world is in the total chaotic mess that we hear on the news. Because people don't know what healthy boundaries are, and they sure don't, therefore, know how to honor healthy boundaries. And without healthy boundaries, you cannot love as well as you could. Without healthy boundaries, you will not be able to consistently show honor to people. You just won't do it. You'll be saying 10 sentences of love, 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 but that one dishonoring thing shoots all those rabbits down. We had talked about shooting rabbits, so I guess that one came out on that one. Okay, so anyway, I do believe that that's why one of the problems that we have. I want you to do something right now, okay? And honor gives choices, so no, you don't have to do it. I'm not going to come check what you're doing, okay? But you would really get the applications of this better if you would do this thing tonight. I believe this, okay? Well, maybe I ought to preface it with this. This is going to put a little pressure on. I was in the shower today, and aren't you glad? And while I was in the shower, God and I were talking about this book that all night long has been going, and Lord, how do I narrow this down? And I'm freaking out, and what am I going to do with this? This is like bigger than I can possibly even begin to get across tonight. And all at once, same kind of thing happened. I heard the Lord say this, and I promise you, I know what it is to defame the name of the Lord. And so I'm not going to say he told me something if I don't with all my heart and years of experience of knowing his voice in my knower. I would not tell you that if it is not true, okay? I heard the Lord say, and it shocked me, you are breaking a code with this teaching. You are getting ready that if people get this, it's going to break a code like a key going in a lock, and it's going to unlock some life and liberty for them that they have been wearing themselves out trying to attain. Now, there's a lot of things that when we come up for prayer, we can cast out, like demons. In fact, they are. We can cast out demons. We can lay hands on the sick and they're healed. We can pray all kinds of things. But this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where you got to give God something to work with. Okay? Boundaries. How are you handling your boundaries? You have to be able to do the hard work. I am not going to say anything tonight that is going to change your world if you just go home and just forget about it. Nothing. There's nothing that can change this except you surrendering to God and saying, I've been doing it my way so long, and all that's happening is that my home is in chaos, we're fighting, we're bickering, all these different things are happening, I'm staying up, I'm scared, I can't be at peace, I'm losing my peace all the time. This is the glue that holds you together. All things are held together in Christ Jesus, but this is the glue that he gives us. God is a God of order, and healthy boundaries are how he does it. Tonight, I want you to know this as we start. Okay, I told you I want you to do something. I better do that first. I want you to think of one person. I don't care if it's the easiest or the hardest. I want you to think of one person, one. And if you can't think of one, I'll give you one of mine, okay? I want you to think of one person that you feel like is so hard for you to love, that makes your life hell, that just keeps on like keeping your life in chaos, that won't honor who you are, that won't, all those kinds of things, whatever you want to define it as. I want you to think of one person. I want you to raise your hand when you think of that one person. Oh, are you kidding me? Okay, think of historically who was the one person. Okay, think of that if you can't think of present day. Okay, I do. I believe every single person does. I didn't ever get to set a boundary for myself, except would I obey my father and my mother, or would I be in major trouble? Okay? All my boundaries were set for me. As a result, I grew up not knowing what a boundary was. My life was a mess because I didn't know what boundaries were. In addition, I was, to this day, this is not like a weird sort of pride in saying this. I truly mean this. I have not met a person yet who was more of a people pleaser than I was. I was an expert. At the minute they walked through the door, I could pick up on, read, what do I need to do to please them? Okay? Some of you wish you still knew that person. But, nevertheless, okay, here's something about people pleasers. People pleasers don't have their own boundaries. They let you decide their boundaries for them, and they become a slave to your boundaries. They do. There's another thing about this experience that I had, is that people who are easily offended or often offended, which is the same as easily offended, they just don't want to admit they are people who have horrible boundaries. Okay? So that may perk some ears right there to people that say I maybe ought to listen a little bit better, or if my statement offended you, it probably was for you. Okay? The absence of healthy boundaries, okay? The absence of healthy boundaries means you have no honor in that relationship. Honor your father and mother. If you don't have healthy boundaries with your father and mother, guess what? Something may be going on, but it isn't healthy honor. Okay? My freedom came as a result of a crash. And I'm not going to go into all that detail. Some of you have heard it. I've spoken on this. You can get the somewhere in the archives, somewhere it's surely there. But anyway, during that time of crash, the Lord began to show me his parenting style. His parenting style loved me no matter what I ever did or didn't do. There was nothing I could do to make him love me less or make him love me more. And everything he asked of me, he allowed me to have a choice in. And my choice did not hinge on whether or not he would love me. That's profound, guys. Most of us did not grow up with that. Okay? I am telling you, I never knew it until I met my husband, and he gave me an inkling of it, and that opened the doorway to seeing something different in God. But that part alone, we're going to talk tonight about what are boundaries. Everybody say, what are boundaries? I ask you to lay down your idea and pick up perhaps something new. What you think you know can keep you from what you need to know. So, what are boundaries? Number 2, I want us to take a very quick look at what does the Bible say about boundaries. Number 3, I want to give a very quick review for those who have been here. And in your worship folder, you have a handout, and it's called What's in Your Circle. You're going to need that in a little bit, okay? But if we have time, I'd like to also take some questions and answers. But probably that's not going to happen. So I would really appreciate if you would write down questions. If you have the answer, write that down too, okay? But a question for it, if you have something, we'll try and cover that in the weeks ahead because it's hugely important. I have people that contacted me this week who told me, Pat, and these are people my age, some of them are young, some of them are my age, young, okay? And they said, I'm telling you, it did mine, so this isn't Pat and Pat on the back. This is Pat and God and how valuable this is. This will revolutionize your life if you will take it bite by bite and apply it. A year from now, you could experience new freedom in your relationships, less chaos and drama in your relationships. And part of that's going to be because it'll take care of some people who thought they had that right to do that. So what's in your circle? So write down those and get them to me. Okay, but I do want you to know that even no matter what question you ask, there are going to be application questions most likely. I'm trying to cover as much as I can, but there's no way we can cover it all. So we're going to try and hit the mountaintops here. But on these situations, on questions, the Holy Spirit is never going to let us get away by just getting answers from each other. Do you hear that? We're dependent on him. I don't have all the answers. I'm just telling you all the hard knocks. Everything that's here, I've got a story to go with it. Okay? So meaning that I did it or didn't do it or should have done it or whatever, I had to help somebody else through it. But it comes from having an intimate relationship with God. Some of your most intimate application questions can only be met by he who knows the person involved, you, and the history. You're going to have to ask him. I can give you some guidelines. There are other people who can. But when it comes down to it, hearing my voice isn't going to convince you like hearing his voice. 90% of our decisions would be answered. Our problems would be solved if we got this worked out. 90%. How do I know that? Because it's very seldom I sit down with people that it doesn't go back to this. I know this is true from years of this, years of working with people, okay? Second thing, you need to know that every situation, as I said, will require you to listen to the Holy Spirit. So pay attention to him. Get in a relationship with him. Your first boundary to work out is between you and him. We went from one senior citizen and one, just teasing. He gets the pass now. He gets the pass. We went from two of us quiet souls, because we're pretty quiet at home, right? Well, she would know. Okay. But 2 quiet souls in this house, to now then we have an adult daughter and 3 grandkids living with us. Okay? Our world changed. Boundaries are never static. You can't put a relationship on hold and say that it just needs to coast now. You have to tend it like a garden. Okay, so we are having to work these things out right now. In fact, last night, we sat down with their mom, and this is Faith Nicole. She's our oldest granddaughter. But we sat down with her mom last night, and we said, okay, we need to talk. I know you're tired. We're tired. Did you notice setting boundaries and getting it worked out is never convenient? It's not for us either. Okay, so we had to sit down, and we had to talk out. Who are we going? We need to talk out about that laundry. How's that going to get out of the laundry room downstairs? Okay? I got some wash that needs to be done. Who's going to pick up? Who's going to clean up? I left this house clean. See, I used to be able to leave it, and if Fred went there, came home and it's still clean. Okay? Right? Now, he's very good at it, but this was true. Any person in the house, you guys took that further then. Okay? But we had to sit down and do that, and we decided this was a long discussion. Our very first thing we had to work out, and this is true in all boundary making. Who are you going to be to each other? Not what are you going to do. See, we're in pain and we want to just get it straightened out and say, no, I need you to stop that and do this and No, it doesn't start there. It starts on literally stopping and saying, okay, this is going to be tough because I know what we get into this when we do this, okay? And I don't want that. First of all, I want you to know it's going to be difficult. I love you now. I love you while we're talking about it. I'm going to love you, and I'm still going to be here when we're done. Nobody's going anywhere, and nobody's going to die. Okay? All right? We say that around here to each other. All right? So we need to, first of all, say, who are we going to be to each other? And we take that way for granted. Way for granted. I guarantee you. Let's see hands. Okay, you can open your eyes. I want you to raise your hand if you have said to your spouse, hey, let's sit down and talk about who we want to be in this before we have this argument. Anybody done that? Thank you. Yes. Okay. There you go. I'm really, really serious. If we know who we want to be to each other, it takes fear off the table. And fear is what causes explosions, okay, in discussions. So I encourage you to go there, be specific in that. All right, so I was telling you about my experience at home and how we have to work through all this, but I also want to tell you that back in the day, when Fred and I were first married, his mom was an ordained pastor. His dad was an ordained pastor. He had 2 siblings who spoiled him rotten, who grew up in pastors' homes. My dad was a pastor. My mom was a pastor's wife. We had churches full of people who had sat under pastors and their wives. I went to a Christian school, Colorado Christian. It was Rockmont at the time. And every person there had an opinion about what a pastor's wife should be. Now, this is just in the season I'm going through this. Okay? Every person had an opinion about it. What did that do to this people pleaser? Like, you know? I became a chameleon. That's what it did, because I'm very good. When I went here, I did what they wanted. But I wasn't thinking of it here. I'd just been trained. It was a subconscious reaction. Our subconscious thoughts are what are controlling us, not our conscious ones. Okay? They're the ones that are dictating what we're doing. And it had become so self-conscious, or that too, subconscious that I didn't even realize I was doing it. But I ended up in Kansas City. Some of you know this. I crashed. And it wasn't until Holy Spirit really began talking to me about this and said, you do know. He always does that with me. Is he humoring me or is he like needling me? Okay. But he says, you do know the truest thing about you is what I say. Now I'm in a crisis of faith. Am I going to put, that verse, thou shalt have no other gods before you? It actually means not even on the same level. And as a people pleaser, I didn't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody was on that same line of importance and value. Their word. Anybody else? Am I the only one that's ever done that? Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, so he began to take this Humpty Dumpty and put me back together again by doing that. He also taught me, I am your audience of one. You will never be healthy. You will never find real, healthy agape love, nor be able to give it until you know I am your audience of one. Let everybody go. Let everybody else go who's been serving in that spot. Audience of one. What does that mean? It means all I got to do is, are you pleased? What do you want me to do? How would you do that? Think of all the people in my life. I was like this all over the place, asking and looking to know what people were doing. Okay? It boiled it down to one, audience of one. Those two lessons you will never stick with, nor discover, nor work out healthy boundaries if you still have God as the voice, number one, a spouse along with them, or a friend, or an enemy. Sometimes our worst voices are the people that were against us. Their words are looping over in our heads, right? Okay, you'll never be able to walk in this consistently without having an audience of one. Those of you who've heard this again, have you picked up the audience of one plus a couple of other hitchhiker voices? Anybody doing that? It's time to tune up. Okay, tune it up. So let's start looking at this whole topic now, a little bit, going specifically into boundaries. I want you to know what Oxford says about it. Oh, it's so complex. Boundary. A line that marks the limits of an area. A dividing line. I have dividing lines. They mark my area right here. Okay? That's what they are. Synonyms. I'm going to give you a few of them that are good. Partition. Bounds. Like you're out of bounds or you're in bounds. Limits. Limits. We live in a society that thinks we should be able to live with no limits. Okay? We get to do whatever we want, unless you're a parent who's supposed to be working with your kids. And then, okay, anyway, that's another. Margins. Margins, another word. Perimeter. When I read that, I just think, that's fences around my personal pasture. Okay? Fits for Wyoming. My working definition, though, that I've lived by for years, is that it's where Pat starts and ends in personal responsibility because of my God-given responsibility, authority, and power. But, so is it in my personal responsibility? If it's my responsibility, I've been given authority over it. Some of you work in jobs where you get all kinds of responsibility and no authority. That ain't God. If God gave us responsibility, he gave us the authority. And if we have the authority, he gives us the power to back up the authority. Okay? I'm just writing down. You can just listen a minute here, okay? These are from my notes, my personal notes. The truth is that my boundaries are not about you. Because people hear the word boundaries, and what's the word they start thinking of? It's a C word. Control. Okay? It's not. It has nothing to do with you. It's about defining me. It's about reminding me who I will be when you show up to fuss at me. If I don't remember that, I give my power away to you. That's not a powerful person. Okay? It's a way that it reminds me what I will value. My boundaries. I will value my time with God. If I got a job outside the church, it would have to allow me to be able to have my time with God. I value vacations, but you better believe that if I can be here, I want to be here. I don't want to forsake the assembling together of believers. Okay? It reminds me what I value. My family. Why would I take a job that never let me be with my family? Not okay. It reminds me where I can find me when I'm not making sense to you. And it's okay. If you want to know if you are in your space taking care of your stuff, that's the bottom key. Will I one day give an account for this, or is that somebody else's to give an account for? Okay? So, another one. It's the filter through which I can understand me better, and therefore, if I understand me better, I can understand you better. It's the place that you can count on me from. Okay? You can count on me. The integrity is super high to me. Super high to me. Super high to me. But the most integrous part is, are you being authentic? All right. How you can help me. It's also a place where if I know my boundaries, I can help you know how to help me. because you know what to get my back on. Watch over me. Am I upholding what's important to me? Do you see how important this is? Now then, what healthy boundaries are? A way to love God and other people well. Bottom line. Definition to how I will manage me and I will respect you managing you. Okay? A way to protect others from me. Okay? Next one. It's a tool to give you power to control yourself. Boundaries are to keep me on task, on target, and being my best, truest self. That's what boundaries do. Instead of this, we're trying to be all things to all people at all times. That's the definition of a pastor's wife, by the way. Then with that, at the moment that they want it, because you have a cell phone, right? Okay, that being the case, I need to know, and it's hard to discover our best, truest self. You know why? My prayer is every day when I was getting healed, God, first of all, I started praying, God, show me who you created me to be. I don't even know. Do I like the color blue, or do I like spaghetti, or do I like French fries, or do I really like fish and I just didn't know it? You know, I pray every day, God, show me who you want me to be. But a people pleaser, I just put God right there with everybody else, and that was like one more big one to have to please. I was miserable. 6 weeks later, I'm lying in bed crying again after I woke up that one morning and realized I don't know who I am or what I like. I literally did not. I did not, and it scared me to death. I woke up 6 weeks later, I said, God, this isn't working. Please show me who you created me to be before people ever got me, touched me, before I ever got hurt, before any pain came into my life, and help me be happy with that. Because if he had just shown me, I'd really be messed up, right? So I needed that little tag on there. I need to know my best self. Your worship folder says, Amber, thank you very much, says when you honor your boundaries, you get to live in the world as the person you want to be. And I would say that God created you to be. Okay? Yesterday I was talking with Jenna. Jenna, are you in here? She was earlier, back there. Jenna, I was talking with Jenna over at City Brew. Yes, I've changed. I still drink Starbucks. I finish it off in my car, then I go in City Brew. But anyway, don't tell them, it's a true story. I saw Jenna, and Jenna she's becoming a hairstylist. She just finished school. She's going to get her license. She's awesome. But if you need a hairstylist, we'll hook you up. Okay, but anyway, Jenna was sitting there, and I said, Jenna, tell me what you want in your business. She's going to be renting a booth. Tell me what you want. You know what she did? What are your goals? I said. She started out, it just made me proud as a spiritual mom. She told me who she wants to be to her clients. Before she ever I had to press on or push her to say, but what do you want it to look like? What would that look like? But she knew it has to start with who we want to be to each other. That is so awesome. That's exactly the way it goes. Yay, Jenna. Excellent. They start with your boundaries start by determining who do you want to be. Who do you want to be? So what boundaries are not? We are not going to get as far as I thought, but that's quite all right. What boundaries are not? Philippians 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Can we put how many? Oh, good. Philippians 2, 3, and 4 from the NIV. Do nothing. Okay, let me tell you this one first. Boundaries are not an excuse to be selfish or rude. Some people use boundaries that way. I want to lose my boundaries. Okay? Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. That is such an awesome boundaries scripture. Can you see boundaries in that? Can you see it? Okay. Boundaries are not a way to turn you into me. We have one of those. Please don't do it. It's not safe. Besides, you wouldn't like everybody that shows up at your doors. Next one. Boundaries are not a way to control other people. They're just not. Did you know that if you're making demands of people, it's a form of control? If you're demanding things from people, you are caught up in control. You cannot demand things of people and be showing them honor simultaneously. If you're giving a bunch of ultimatums as a demand, you're not in an honoring place. Whether it's your kids, whether it's your boss, it doesn't matter, okay? So I know some of you are wondering, well, where is this thing about boundaries in the Bible? Well, I've shown you some scriptures that illustrate it, and really a lot about boundaries are that way. You see principles. It's okay, which is interesting to me on this thing. We see it through the model of Jesus. We see it in how God parents us. But the Bible is filled with boundary examples. God tells us, I am that I am. God tells us he's faithful. God tells us, I'm kind. Do you know how we know that about God? He doesn't always come out and say it. He does it through the names that he gives us of himself. His names reveal who he is. He's telling you, no matter what you go through, I don't just want you to know what to call me when you're in that situation. Hey, Jehovah Jireh. No, he wants to know. That's if you need money, okay? He's like the provider. Yeah, don't just start calling. He wants you to know his name because it will reveal, revelation comes of who he is and who he wants to be to you in those times. It's his boundaries. Creator. Did you know God is still the creator today? So why aren't we praying for limbs that need recreated? Well, we do, as a matter of fact, so glad you asked. Number 2, all right, on this one. Some other examples of literal boundaries. Boundaries began in heaven with the Trinity. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. 3 in 1. Very distinct personalities, purposes, and involvements, assignments. Boundaries. They even know their own boundaries. It's in Genesis through Revelation. And another one, boundaries are found in Genesis when creation, heaven from earth, land from sea, night from day, okay, all those kinds. We know that he's done that. He also, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil versus a tree of life. He had boundaries there. And do you like how Satan twisted that? Instead of just sharing the truth there, because he has no truth in him, but instead of sharing the truth about, yeah, he gave you boundaries because he's trying to provide for you and protect you, he twisted it, distorted it, and told them, hath God really said, by the way, didn't you know that if you did this, you could be like God? It's all about control. He's just trying to control you. And he's still doing the same thing today because he is not a creator. The best he can do is recycle, okay? And that's what he's doing. So don't fall for it when he tells you that. There's the story of Abraham and Lot where they have to divide up. And they did it in a loving, kind way. Although Lot was he was just kind of out for himself. Abraham had good boundaries, handled it well. You may not like this one, but it's in the Word. And one of my boundaries is I will speak the Word in truth and love. You're free to go decide and work it out with God. But I have to tell you what God said. He has boundaries about sexuality. He doesn't like it when we sleep around before we're married. Why? Because he wants to rob you of that cool experience? No, because he wants to provide and protect. He wants to keep it in the sanctimony of a marriage where you don't have to worry about everybody else that's been sleeping with that person and how you measure up. He wants it to be that you don't have the diseases that does he judge you and condemn you if you did that? No, he loves you. But he was wanting to protect you before that ever happened. Okay? And likewise, there's boundaries about marriage. By the way, if you are gay, lesbian, doesn't matter. God loves you. But God does have a boundary there. It was one man with one woman. I didn't set it, he did. So if he said it and his character is good, remember I can figure out how he does things by his names. If he is good, then I know there's something in that of why I don't want to touch that tree. I don't want to do that. I want to do it God's way because he is always good. Not just some of the time, he always is. It's who he is, not just what he does. He also says there was a boundary with leave and cleave. If you don't know about that, some of you haven't done it yet. You're married and you haven't left home. You're still all about mom or dad, okay? The cleaving, you haven't done that. Cleaving makes you one, okay? It's not him and that guy and, my old woman. Don't even. Don't even. Okay? Leave and cleave, you become one. All right? Here's another verse for you. Philippians 2:14 through 15. This is a boundary with our words. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. Keep going. So that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped warped and crooked generation, well, kind of think we are, then you will shine among them like stars in the sky. His goal that he's trying to provide is he wants you to shine among them like stars in the sky. He doesn't want you warped or crooked. He says, do these things without grumbling or complaining so that you are protected from that. He puts a boundary over our mouth. We know the 10 Commandments. They're boundary lines. There's reasons for them. We're told things to think on. Think on these things and not on these things. Because you're building a stronghold in your brain, whatever you think about. Let's make it a good stronghold. Let's make it a good rut that we travel over and over again. We see God's boundaries in Jesus' example of when he tells us to go and do the same things. Heal the sick. Okay? Heal the sick. Raise the dead. Cast out demons. That's a boundary. He says, that's yours. You get to live within that. Go for it. Okay? Here's a really cool one. God always presented people with choices. Always. Were you one of those people that you could hardly wait to grow up so you could just do whatever you wanted to do? Yeah, how's that working? Yeah. Okay, Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. And after that one, Joshua 24:15. Deuteronomy 30:19. This day, this is God, I call the heavens and earth as witnesses against you that I've set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live, whatever it was. Is that where it went? We can just go there. Choosing to live is good. That's a good thing, okay? But you get to choose, do you want life or do you want death? Some of you, the fruit of your life says you've been on the road that chooses death. But he's not forcing you. By the way, okay, we better go to this one. Joshua 24:15. I'm going to start reading. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, we won't ask who wants to raise their hand, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. That's one of my boundaries. On this thing about choosing life or death, I get really frustrated when I hear people say, I can't love God. How could a loving God send people to hell? He doesn't. We choose it. It's true. You have been sold a bill of goods by the same serpent in the garden if you believe that he sends people to hell. Okay. But that's a very important thing, because how are you going to ever let him be your audience of one and your final authority if you think he's not truly a good God? He's just wearing a suit and mask, so you'll think he is, and then one day when you get in trouble, he's going to take it off and send you to hell. No, wrong. That's somebody else's God. It's not who we're talking about, okay? God is a God of order, and that requires boundaries. It's to provide for us and protect us. Say provide and protect. Is that your God? If not, you got the wrong God. If when God asks you to do something and you have to go, what do you think about that, to somebody else, that's your God, not him. Okay? If when God asks you to do something, it's like, oh, this is going to hurt. Guess what? Wrong God. You got the wrong focus. Okay? Now, it's not fun dying. Okay? Sometimes I squeal like a pig. But just go ahead and do it. Get it over with. God, I know you're a good God, so my life is already surrendered. You know the best way the best time to die is before you get in the situation where you have to. Go ahead and just do it. I choose now to forgive Fred no matter what he does. You no matter what you do. Me no matter what I do, because God does. Well, if I can do that, I can do the same thing on the other. God, I choose to surrender to you right now. Whatever it comes up, I won't second guess it. If I know it's your voice, I hear it in the knower. It's up to you to make sure that I hear you and I know it's you. If I know it's you, the answer is already yes. We do that to people. There's some of you been doing that with guys and gals all your life. They wanted it, you gave it. Okay? We can settle that. We just got to turn it to God. Okay? So, what boundaries look like for us? You guys, these have been down here for a long time. This is my life, hula hoop. I laid it down so you don't have to listen to that all the time. My life, this is Fred. Okay? We'll go this route. It could represent Jenny and me. Anybody else? It could represent Adam and me. All right? These are our life. This is your life. Okay? This circle represents what wrong circle. See? That's not good boundaries. Okay. This is my life, and it represents what I am one day going to have to give an account for. No matter what he said or did about it. By the way, when you were a child, you got to think and act like a child. But when you become an adult, sorry, that doesn't work anymore. You have to put away childish things. You can't say, well, so-and-so did such a... Well, say it, get healed from it, and go on. Okay? Don't use it as a hide behind, all right? I'm really serious. I'm not being flippant about pain. I've been there with many people. I've cried the tears. I'm just saying, it hurts so badly, I don't want to see them stay there. Okay, when there's a remedy for it. So this is our life. This is our life. We're going to look at the things that are in our circle. Okay, got your pages out of your worship folder. We're going to go through these mega fast. Okay, 10 minutes. All right, we're going to get through Boundaries again. And there will be another time when I share with you another part that God's been teaching on this. All right, again, through the School of Hard Knocks. Okay, now remember, your teacher isn't responsible for this. Your brother or sister is not responsible for this. Your grandparents aren't responsible for this. Your pastor is not responsible for this. Okay? Not. Everybody say, my pastor is not responsible for my life. Okay. All right. Here's the things that go with it. You got your little sheet? Okay, here they are. Your feelings. Fred, would you stand in that one? Your feelings and your emotions. Fred can irritate me. He can do things that are like, "Arr!" But those emotions belong to me. Very seldom, honey, very seldom. Okay. I told him if he stood up here, he could not get me distracted. Okay. So, your presence distracts me. Okay. So, did I make up for the other? Yeah. Okay, emotions. This happens all the time in relationships. Well, they just didn't make me happy anymore. Woohoo! That should have been decided before you got married. Okay? By the way, this is a sidebar. Shoot that rabbit, right? Okay. But this is a sidebar. Did you know they say it takes 8 seasons to really know someone? Winter, spring, summer, fall. Good song. Winter, spring, summer, fall. 8 seasons. Before you see, that wasn't a fluke that they were nice in that situation. They really are. It happened again, okay? So 8 seasons, they say, typically. All right? Now, I'm not saying God can't do miracles, because he does. I've watched him. I mean, I knew when I met Fred, the very first time I met him, I heard the Lord say, you're going to marry him. So I know God does stuff. But God also had to keep us together, okay? And that meant we both had to have that relationship with God. But now then, feelings and emotions. That is in your circle, okay? You cannot say anybody else made you embarrassed. Well, you can, but you'd be lying, okay? People can't make you embarrassed. We choose to be embarrassed because we lay down our confidence, okay? Sometimes it triggers my subconscious stuff, and I get embarrassed for Fred, but, right? Okay. You do this all the time. Okay, next one. Needs. I am not responsible to make you feel. Okay, needs, all right? You are not responsible. He's not responsible to fill my needs. I would like for him to, and it's nice when he does, but it's not his responsibility. I have a husband, even before him. And that husband can meet all of my needs through Christ Jesus. The riches and glory, right? So, that doesn't mean I'm ready to get rid of him, because he's a really good expression of God's love for me. Awesome. I just wish the rest of you had someone as good as he is. Okay, I really mean that. He's an awesome husband. He is not responsible for my dreams or goals. Parents, I'm sorry. You don't get to be responsible for your grown kids' dreams and goals. If you are staying away from your dreams and goals because of anybody else, you've handed power over to them, part of your life. You gave away. By the way, it was given to you by God. Have you talked to him about giving it away? Okay. Another one, attitudes. All right? Your attitudes are your attitudes. The bed didn't do it to you when you get up in the morning, okay? The lack of coffee or tea didn't do it to you. It's your choice. You will give an account for your attitudes. Beliefs. Everybody clear? Beliefs. I'm going to get to some age things in a minute, and you're going to see a difference here. Behaviors and actions. Nobody can force you to do something. You can say, well, they stuck a gun to my head. You still had a choice. Okay? Probably good when you didn't choose that, but nevertheless. Okay, choices overall. Thoughts and opinions. It's okay that we don't all have the same opinion in here. If we all did, a whole bunch of us wouldn't be needed because mine's most important. Okay? All right. Values, right? Values. Who gets to set your values? Hope doesn't, but if you come here, you're sure going to know our values, and you're probably going to be uncomfortable on some if they don't match, all right? Limits. What are your limits? Fears. Nobody else can make you afraid. You choose fear. I choose fear. Talents and abilities. Spirit, your spiritual development. Our responsibility is to be faithful to what God gives us to feed you, but it's yours to apply it and take care of it, okay? Seek help when you need it. Motivations, strengths, desires, interests, passions, love, and sexuality. So let's go back to the gay and lesbian thing, okay? If a person is gay or a lesbian, can we just put that all in one package and say gay? If they are, you know what? I'd invite them out to dinner. They need a place to stay. They can stay at my house. If it's wise, they're welcome to worship with us. But our values and our boundaries would dictate what kinds of things we would do or not do. For instance, we're not going to stop preaching what the Word says. Okay? Just so you know. Okay? Don't say I didn't tell you. All right. So here's another one. Here's 3 age brackets you need to know. It makes a difference. Fred, can you pick up your life? Okay. So first of all, ages 0 to 12. I need you to hold it like, no, you just do this one. Okay? Put them on top of each other since you want to do it that way. You have choices. Okay. 0 to 12. A parent and a child. This is a child. It's not mine. Okay? Let's say it's Faith Nicole. No, she's not 0. It's a baby. Okay? A parent makes all the decisions. Their life fully encompasses that child to make a decision about what's wisest, what beliefs that child's going to be exposed to. You got the picture? Okay. What attitudes are okay in our home, what's not, all that kind of stuff. Okay, I need it back. Okay. All right. 0 to 12, it's pretty much like that, right on top. Can you put it like this with me so I can show this? Turn it this way. Okay. All right. It's pretty much right on top of each other. The closer, all through those years, you got to let go of one of them. Let go. Okay. Little by little, you give more and more as you've trained them and they've matured. You give more and more, kind of like an eclipse, right? Full eclipse of responsibility and authority. More and more given as they get older and they mature. Okay. Now then, 13 to 20 years old, it's indirect control. Okay, meaning these things are in this, kind of looks like a Venn diagram in math, doesn't it? But those things that are in that middle part right here are the parts they're not quite ready to take that part. They don't get to decide if they can date that person yet, and they're 25 years old. Okay, all right? Don't laugh. Okay, 13 to 20 years old, okay? Then when they get to 20, by the time they get that, I'm sorry, parents, this is what it should look like. You get the picture? If you have a 12-year-old and you're still like this, baby, you got some catching up to do. They're not the problem. This will create huge rebellion. Not only that, they're going to get out in the world with other 12 and whatever year olds. They're going to know a whole lot more than you've trained them or prepared them to stand up to. You're going to tell them, no, we believe this, and not giving them any why we believe it. They're going to get out there and somebody's going to come up, look prettier, look more handsome, look more educated, has more sports status, whatever, and they believe something different. Next thing you know, they're like, you don't know what you're talking about, Mom and Dad. Well, they may do that anyway, but this will ensure it. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay, so the ages again, 0 to 12, 0 to 12, you have all authority. You don't even give it to the babysitter. Okay? Next one, 13 to 20, it's getting more and more and more and more like this. And then at 20, it's like this. It should be. It should be. All right? Now then, we need healthy boundaries so we can be our best self. But that means we're helping them find their best self as well. Okay? Without healthy boundaries, we enable poor behaviors. We enable people across the board. We give away our inheritance that God gave us, and we waste the resources of our word, our time, our health, and it causes chaos and confusion. By defining our boundaries and learning to help others understand those boundaries of our unique self, it helps us know who gets the most of us. If someone will not honor our boundaries, there's concentric circles of boundaries that we talk about of relationship. If someone will not honor my boundaries and demands to take some of those out without me giving them permission, then I know I work with them for a while, but I will put them further out in my relationship circle. Out there with Osama bin Laden, I used to say. Okay, if I need to. Okay, now then, these circles of boundaries are not walls. Say that. They're not walls. The circle around your life, over what's in your circle, you have one, every other person has one, including your kids, including your employer, including your mother-in-law, including your next-door neighbor. You are not responsible for that they are made happy by all your choices and decisions. You give an account to God, audience of one, and they are not it. Okay? Go through that circle of things and say, have I given away any of my life to someone else? Did they come in and take it and I just didn't have the vocabulary to know how to say, excuse me, I had intentions for that, you know? We do. We all do it. We all do it. And I find I do it with people here sometimes, and I don't even know I've done it until suddenly I'm worn out, I'm exhausted. My time belongs to other people rather than I can't even turn to God anymore and say, God, what do you want me to do? Because I gave it all away. Because of need. They don't have a need of me. They have a need of Him. Okay? Same with you. Don't put pride out there and let that distort things on this. We're going to stop here. But I do want to remind you that Adam and Eve in the garden, God gave them choices. He's been doing this a long time. He's doing the same thing with us. Same thing. First boundary to work out is, are you going to accept that God is the final authority and that He is who He says He is and that you are to Him who He says you are? If those three questions are not answered with the affirmative and they become who you are, right now I don't care if you take out your cheat sheets and read them. God is, I don't care. Do it. It's okay till you get it, and then it gets you, all right? But if you get those in line, you will know a counterfeit or a thief when they come up and try to take what doesn't belong to them because you've already been bought with a price.